What's up, you guys? Adrienne Dione here, aka the Fundamentor, and also host of the Gold Mine podcast. I'm so excited to be back with season 4 of the Gold Mine podcast. If you aren't already subscribed to the Gold Mine podcast, definitely go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you also follow on YouTube. But I wanted to start out this season with talking about how to enjoy the process, because I think with entrepreneurship, it's easy for us to get kind of lost in this whole rat race, right? Like we have our competition over here. We're trying to meet our sales goals. We're trying to take care of our families and do all of the things. And so sometimes I remember watching this interview with Beyonce where she was talking about how her mom, first of all, y'all know it ain't gonna be no season when we don't talk about Beyonce, but she was talking about how her mom was like, hey, you need to like stop for a second and take all of this in. And so it's so important that we may not be Beyonce yet or on that level, but okay, we need to enjoy the process. Entrepreneurship is amazing and it's something that we can enjoy, but we have to be intentional about it. And so I'm going to jump right into this topic for today. I think a major key to enjoying the process is to actually stop hyper focusing on the goal. Now, this is the Goal Mine podcast. Don't get me wrong. It's very important for us to have a general idea of where we want to go and what we want to accomplish. But when we're so fixated on that goal, we tend to put happiness off until this certain or specific goal is reached, which can be very frustrating and stressful. And so in order to get out of that, I'll be happy when I reach this goal, or I'll be happy when this happens. We have to stop hyper focusing on the goal. Because when you're in that energy, it's hard to really make forward progress. It'll be really hard to stick to your goals. You'll feel like this overwhelming pressure to perform, which often leads to procrastination because it's so overwhelming. You won't have the resilience to keep going when obstacles show up or when it takes longer than you thought it would take for you to accomplish the goal. And then you'll have a lot of self-doubt if you miss the mark with achieving goals. And so hyper focusing on a specific goal is really not beneficial to us in this process. And so instead, we have to learn to trust ourselves and to trust the process. Now, I know we hear that all the time, right? Just trust the process. Trust the process or enjoy the process. Just fall in love with the process. But what does that really look like practically? Well, when I really started to dive into this, what it actually looks like practically is the small things that you do every day that guarantee inevitable success. So the process is literally the systems that we put in place to reach those goals. I found that doing that one thing, focusing on systems instead of goals, is the key to enjoying the process. Not only that, though, it also increases your chances of actually achieving the goal. And I'm going to tell you why. There's a book called Atomic Habits. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of it if you have not read it. But in there, the author, James Clear, says, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And that just was like, whoa. How many times do we set goals that we never achieve? So, for example, if somebody says, I want to lose 10 pounds, they set the intention, but if they don't actually have action steps, daily action steps every single day that they're taking, they will never reach that goal. So just setting a goal does not mean that you will automatically rise up to the level of that goal. You actually fall to whatever systems you have in place. That's the difference in focusing on a system rather than a goal. It's kind of like that saying, life is not about the destination, but it's about the journey. Goals hyper focus on the destination while the systems are really embracing the journey. So I recommend that in every aspect of your life, there should be a system in place, from the way you run your household to the way that you deal with your finances, from the way that you nurture relationships to the way that you run your business. Successful businesses run off systems. And so we also have to incorporate that into our lives. Systems are the key to goal achievement, and you need them in place. And so I saw this example that I wanted to tell you guys about that I thought really made it come to life. So this girl was kind of talking about the same thing about systems and how she's been implementing more systems into her life. And she talks about how the goal was to keep or have a clean house. Like, she wanted her house to be clean, but because she's so busy all the time, it tends to get messy. And so she has to dedicate like Saturday mornings to getting her house clean. But she was like, this happens every week. And so what happened was she set the goal to have a clean house. Of course, we all do, right? But because she didn't have any systems in place, she would clean the house on a Saturday, and then by the next week, it would be dirty again. And so she said, let me sit down and see what are some things that I can do in order to keep it clean once it's clean. And so she started really focusing on the habit of putting things back when she moved them, like putting things back into their places. And she really started focusing on, you know, if I eat something, stop and wash the dishes and put it back up right then. Then she started implementing things by, like, every evening, she would take 30 minutes just to vacuum, kind of tidy up before she would go to bed. And guess what? It worked. That Saturday morning, there was not nearly as many things that she needed to do other than just washing clothes, or, you know, taking out the trash or whatever the case may be. But because she implemented a system there, it wasn't as overwhelming. And she was reaching her goals consistently. And so I love that example because it really kind of just brought into life. We know about business systems and we know about how important that is, but what does that look like in our everyday life? And so even when it comes to our finances, the way we review and do things like that, it's super important for us to have systems in place. And so not focusing on that goal and putting off our happiness until we reach it, but really getting into focusing on the systems and refining that on a consistent basis is really where it's at. That's how you enjoy the process. The second key for enjoying the process is getting rid of the mindset that we are doing the right thing as long as everything is going good, because that's not true. It's not true. And it's also a natural part of the journey. Y'all, this entrepreneurial journey is a roller coaster ride. Okay, it's a roller coaster ride, and there are a lot of highs and lows. And it can be really rewarding to kind of look back and see how far we've come because of certain obstacles we've been able to, push through and grow from. But that only happens, number one, going back to the main point, when we become obsessed with the process. But just having the mindset that the whole essence of entrepreneurship is about solving problems. And when we finally accept that as a lifestyle and the norm of entrepreneurship, instead of like, oh, I only have to refine something or solve a problem if I've done something wrong, then we find ourselves continuously refining the systems that we're putting in place, and we're looking for opportunities to improve them. That won't feel like a failure or a burden if we just realize that this is a normal part of entrepreneurship. That is how you enjoy the process, and not only enjoy the process, but that's also how you grow. James Clear said in his book, Atomic Habits, It is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. So we aren't just looking up and getting to, the goal. Like, it's a commitment. It's your commitment, how committed you are to that process, and how committed you are to being brave enough to take those obstacles head on, to not give up every time something bad happens. And we do that with getting rid of that mindset that we're doing the right thing as long as everything is going fine. There is literally no successful person in the world who is where they are right now that didn't go through any kind of obstacles or challenges in their journey. And anytime I start to feel really sad or kind of discouraged with how things are going, I love to listen to How I Built This. It's a podcast that I found a lot of inspiration from. There are a lot of different business owners or, big companies that talk about their journey to their success. And in those stories, they just really talk about, like, they're super raw and vulnerable, how they got the funding, like different things that happened along the way. And I just really love that because it reaffirms and it just really helps me to see that, like, you are not the only person that has found challenges along the way. So just like those people figured it out, you can too, right? It's a normal part of the journey. I was listening to the Terrell show. Terrell Grice, he has a YouTube show, and Coco Jones was on there. She's a singer. She's also an actress. She's on the new Bel Air, and I can't remember the other show that she's on, but I love her. And she was on there. They were playing a game. So one of the games they play is he will give them a word and they have to sing a song that has a word in it. And so he gave her the song Thirsty, and he was like, this is a really hard one. And he gave her the word and she started singing, my soul is thirsty. My soul is thirsty for you. It's a song by Marvin Sapp. And it was so much passion and just like, emotions within the song when she was singing. And he was like, whoa, where did that come from? And she talks about a lot of times in her journey where she felt like, man, am I like where I need to be? Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I, God, are you sure I'm like right on the right path? Because so many things will be going wrong. And it was like, she made up in her mind, like, she was just gonna, ride until the wheels fell off. And every single time it kind of got to that point where she felt like, okay, you just can't get any lower. Like, I'm just going to have to, try to figure something else out, go a different route. Something would happen that would kind of give her what she needed to keep going. And she was saying how that song and so many times were just her being desperate and crying out to God, like, I need something here. I need you to do something. That really resonated so much with me because I'm just in a really kind of rough season right now with so many changes going on in my life. And so it really just inspired me to know that, like, it happens. It's a part of the journey. And so she has so much success now, and she's seeing a lot of things, on the up and up. But think about who that made her in the process. This journey is so much about the making of us, the making of who we are going to be, who we need to be in order to be able to sustain the blessing that God has for us. And so if we just surrender to the calling, because I don't care what you're doing as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship is a calling. It is not meant for everybody. Everybody cannot handle it. And if we really surrender to the calling and just really be all in, instead of being so indecisive, and I'm talking to myself, y'all, right now, and I say indecisive of like, am I doing the right thing? Should I keep going? Like, should I be here? it reminds me of a conversation that DT Skipper and I had. If you don't know her, she's a singer-songwriter, expressionist. She does all things just brilliantly. And she's been on the podcast a couple times on all the seasons. I'm gonna try to get her on this season, y'all. But we were talking about black and white thinking, because that's something that both of us kind of like deal with. This black and white thinking, the right and wrong of things. Am I doing the right things? And being so just pressured with making the right decision. And she was saying how that really comes from scarcity thinking and from survival mode, that you think that if you don't get it right, then you're going to die. And that's just not true. Like, we have to really believe and know that even if we mess up, or even if something doesn't come out the way, all things are working together for our good. And so we don't have to be so in survival mode of, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or I'm not, or, I'm scared to take this risk because if I do, that means everything will leave me and I'll lose everything and I'm going to die. And this will be how it's going to be forever. And that's not true. It's just not true. And again, I'm talking to myself, just been in a season of like, I feel like everything, the old version or the old life that I had so much is being ripped away. Y'all have no idea. And I probably will share a lot of it later, but a lot of things have just been ripped away. And I know that it's because where I'm going, those mindset, those beliefs, that system cannot go, it cannot thrive there. And so even when things, our biggest fears, end up becoming a reality, just know that it's all for our good. Like, the things had to go away for a reason. And God, I saw a quote the other day that says, God removes to replace. He always replaces with something bigger and better. And so just getting rid of that mindset that, as long as things are going right, that means I'm doing the right things, because it is a natural part of the journey. And I don't know if y'all been encouraged by that, but I encourage myself, child. Okay. Yeah, all things are working together for our good, that this is a journey, but it's so much about not just reaching our financial goals in our businesses, but also the making of us, the making of who we are and who God has called us to be. So yeah. And then the third thing that I want to talk about when it comes to enjoying the process is also getting rid of another mentality. And that is, if you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. I heard my lead Teal talk about this in one of her lives a couple of weeks ago, where she was like, I do what I love and I work very hard every single day. And I think that it's so true. There's this misconception when we kind of move into entrepreneurship and away from working for someone else, that because I'm doing what I love and because I'm so passionate about it, then it should be easy. And nowadays I'm very conscious of words that is should be or it's supposed to be, because it really is me setting up an expectation. And a lot of times when you have unrealistic expectations, you'll be left disappointed and discouraged. But just because you're doing something that you love and you're passionate about, that doesn't mean it won't require you to put in work, to work hard, to make sacrifices, to have to do things that you don't want to do. And when we think like that, we set ourselves up for failure in a way of we set ourselves up to have expectations that just aren't realistic. And so we really have to be conscious of the mentality. It's not all about just, believing that everything's going to work out and that it's going to be easy and that it won't be hard, because it will take self-discipline. It will take sacrifices. It will take us working and doing things that we don't want to do and working hard every day in order to see our dreams and our visions come to life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working hard, especially when you have a system in place where you have time set aside to rest. When you have set your life up in a way that works for you. And I want to take a second just to talk about that for a second. The way you set up your business affects your quality of life, your target audience, the services that you provide, just the way you split your finances or you have your system set up, the way you do business, the way you market, all of those things matter because they affect your quality of life. So really be mindful of that and make sure that you are setting your life up in a way that works for you. This is your business. This is your life. Make sure that it's working for you. So many times we have our clients and our customers in mind, and we're delivering the service and we're able to meet their demands, but they're happy, but we're not. And that is just not sustainable. And so if we really do want to enjoy the process and we want to enjoy the journey, we have to make sure that our businesses are set up in a way that will produce that will not be producing burnout and stress and overwhelm. It matters. It matters, it matters, it matters. And so I do believe entrepreneurship is one of the greatest things ever. Never knocking a 9-to-5. A 9-to-5 is what allowed me to be able to move into the entrepreneurship full time. But it doesn't have to be something that is not enjoyable, that is stressful, that's exhausting. It can be a journey that is enjoyable, and it can only be that way if we set it up to be that way, if we're intentional about it. And so I hope that this episode really spoke to some areas that you may have been struggling with, to show you kind of like where you need to kind of change some belief systems that you have, and that you just start to think about things and this whole journey a little bit differently. I am really excited to be hosting a retreat this year in September. It's September the 30th through October 3rd. It's called the Cater to You Retreat. And it's all about just creating a comfortable space for CEOs to celebrate, to rest, and to relax in your magic. Like, we do a lot. We make a lot of sacrifices on a daily basis in order to create the life and the magic and the results that we have. And so I think it's very important. We don't spend enough time celebrating ourselves, reflecting, networking, and just connecting with like-minded individuals like us. And so I wanted to create something where that was possible. And I would love for you guys to join me. We're going to Cancun. The prices are amazing. So all you have to do is, I'll link it below, but you go there. There is an application process, just to make sure that it's a good fit for the both of us. And then you put down a $200 deposit and make your payments along the way. Super affordable, super easy process. And let me tell y'all ever been to any of my events or anything that I ever put on, it's always an experience. I'm really big on experiences and details. And I really just want to celebrate you guys, really cater to you and help you cater to yourself. This is literally you catering to yourself, you setting aside time to celebrate and reflect. And so I'm super excited about it. And I hope you will join me. But that's all I have for this week. Make sure you tune in. No, make sure you subscribe. That's the first thing. Then you want to share it with all your business besties, your friends, your family, so we can get this message out to as many people as possible. I think that's it, you guys. Next Tuesday is going to be really good. I'm going to have a guest on the podcast, and it's going to be an amazing conversation you do not want to miss. So until the next episode, let's chat and connect in the comments. Let me know what stood out to you the most in this episode. And also, if you have some ideas of a topic you want me to discuss on the podcast, let me know. I'm really interested to see how you guys want to connect and what you guys want to talk about this season on the business, but not business season of the Gold Mine podcast. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.